He stood at the edge of the railway track, shoes torn, heart shattered, and eyes lost in the blur of distant headlights that kept coming and going, unaware of the storm brewing inside his chest. His name was Armin, and just 2 days ago, he was the rising star of his college. The boy, everyone clapped for the boy, who believed he was destined for something greater than survival. But failure had come like a thief in the night, cruel and cold. He had worked for 3 years building a startup from scratch, missing parties, ignoring sleep, sacrificing comfort, and clinging to the hope that one day he would make it. But then on the eve of his investor pitch, his laptop crashed, his backup corrupted, his confidence broken. He froze in the boardroom, stammered, forgot his numbers, and watched his dream die in the eyes of a silent room. Laughter echoed behind his back, and the boy who was once called the future was now just a joke. He walked out without saying a word, left his team, his friends, his phone, and wandered aimlessly with failure as his only companion. Everyone told him to move on, but no one saw the storm within him. No one understood that when your soul is invested in a dream and that dream dies, something inside you breaks too. He spent 2 days in a cheap motel staring at the ceiling until he heard the sound of a cleaner humming an old song, and for the first time in days, he felt the presence of life again. He watched the cleaner, a frail old man, moving slowly but singing brightly. And Armin asked him, "Uncle, how are you this happy?" And the man said, "Bait, I lost everything in the flood, my wife, my house, my crops, and my leg, but not my faith. Because if you keep your song alive, even storms will pass." That sentence hit Armin like lightning, because he realized he had let failure mute his song. He returned to the track, not to end his story, but to begin again. He remembered what his grandfather once told him: when a seed falls, it does not die, it just prepares to rise. He walked for hours, reached his garage, and asked for one thing: a table and a chair. He borrowed a broken phone, started emailing small clients, offering to build basic websites for peanuts, anything to start again. Each rejection burned, but he kept going. He began to understand that failure is not the opposite of success. It is part of the journey. He read stories of legends who failed again and again. Edison failed 1,000 times before the bulb. Abraham Lincoln lost 8 elections before becoming president. J.K. Rowling was rejected by 12 publishers, and now she owns an empire. These were not just stories, they were roadmaps. He realized that every rejection, every heartbreak, every collapse was simply a step forward disguised as pain. He worked through nights, sipping chai, coding websites, designing posters, slowly building his confidence like a wall of bricks. He built one client, led to 2 to 2-5. He slept on the floor, ate instant noodles, but never stopped writing down ideas and quotes on sticky notes, and one note read, "You are not broken, you are in the making." He stopped looking at others and started watching himself. He tracked progress, celebrated small wins, and forgave himself for past mistakes. One day a client referred him to a fashion startup, and that deal changed everything. He built them a clean interface, they loved it, and gave him full-time work. He smiled that night for the first time in months, not because he was rich, but because he felt worthy again. He called his parents after months of silence and told them, "I am not lost, I just took a longer route." They cried, he cried, and in that moment, failure became his teacher, not his enemy. The next 6 months tested him more than the first, because success demands more discipline than failure. He had to wake up early, deliver on time, handle angry clients, and still fight the voice in his head that whispered, "What if you fail again?" But he kept remembering the cleaner, who had lost everything yet never his song. And so Armin sang in his own way, through his work, through his attitude, through his courage. He learned marketing, finance, and client psychology by reading free books and watching endless videos on borrowed Wi-Fi. He joined online groups, spoke to strangers, learned from criticism, and refused to let ego block his growth. One night his bank balance hit 5 figures for the first time, and instead of partying he went to the same railway track, stood silently and whispered, "Thank you," not to the world but to himself, for choosing to try again. Now understood that the strongest people are not those who never fall, but those who rise after falling with wisdom in their scars. He started mentoring younger students, helping them navigate pressure, anxiety, and failure. He became the same hand he once wished had pulled him out of the dark. He launched a podcast called From Broken to Built, where he shared his story raw and real, and within a month thousands were listening from different corners of the world. People messaged him saying, "You saved my life," and he replied, "You saved mine," by listening. He was no longer just a coder or a hustler. He was a lighthouse for those lost in their storms, and yet he never called himself successful, because he believed success is not a destination, but a journey of growth and giving. He remembered the boy who once cried in silence, and he promised never to forget him, because that broken boy was the root of the man he had become. One day he met the cleaner, again now even older, and offered him a job as office caretaker in his newly opened space. The old man smiled and said, "I told you your song would return," and Armin hugged him tightly without words, both knowing that some debts are paid not in money but in memory. Today, Armin runs a startup that trains underprivileged youth in digital skills. He partners with schools in rural areas, sponsors education, and tells every student the same words: failure is not your enemy. Giving up, as he teaches them not just to dream big but to fall big and rise bigger, because the world does not belong to the perfect, it belongs to the persistent. His story is now used in leadership workshops, TED Talks, and motivational sessions, but he remains grounded always, reminding himself that the real success is waking up every day with purpose, fire, and love for what you do. So, when people ask him what changed his life, he smiles and says failure, because sometimes it is the fall that teaches you how to fly.